On Christmas morning 2014, Jackson rushes downstairs to unbox his gifts. His parents promised that if he worked hard enough at school this year, he could get whatever he wanted, and since he got good grades, he asked for a PS4. He plugs it into his TV and turns it on. He's so excited to finally play the game he's always wanted to, Call of Duty Advanced Warfare, but something isn't right. He fills in all the credentials needed, but then a message pops up. He tries again and again and again, but nothing seems to work. Little do they know that users all across the globe have been struggling to get into their PSN and Xbox Live accounts. But who could do such a thing? I mean, why would anyone restrict the joys of millions of people on Christmas Day? Well, somewhere in the world, a group consisting of 7 individuals are meticulously planning and threatening these tech giants to take down their softwares. But what would they even want? Is it fame? Is it money? Or just for their pure entertainment? Throughout this video, we're going to break down every major hack, stunt, and takedown connected to the infamous Lizard Squad. Somewhere far away, not inside of Jackson's living room, a Twitter timeline refreshes, and a name that most gamers have never even heard before is at the top of the search bar. But this wasn't something that was just built overnight. It all started on August 18th, 2014, in a fucking League of Legends lobby. Why? I have no clue. But people found themselves struggling to get into their accounts and getting into their games. And then not much later after this incident, a new tweet spawns. League of Legends #offline. This was only the beginning, just the first spark in a long trail of cyber attacks the Lizard Squad would leave behind. But before we get into the rest of it, let's break down on how the Lizard Squad actually did their hacks. So the so-called hacks that the Lizard Squad did weren't really hacks. It was DDoSing. They weren't breaking into the system, but overwhelming it so much with a flood of internet traffic to the point it didn't even work, meaning that the servers would stop working completely and no one across the globe could connect to them. But they didn't just stop after the League of Legends attack. Players on RuneScape were also complaining about the servers being down, and a lot of them were having trouble logging into their accounts. The exact same scenario as the League of Legends players. And because of this, the Lizard Squad had started their rise to fame. But not in a good way. All across the internet, the complaints piled up.
If I catch any Lizard Squad, I'ma beat y'all lasses on my mama.
During all this chaos, they tweeted, "We're putting a bunch of lizards in the pipes on their way to Sony," hinting on what's to come in the future. And at one point, they even claimed to be affiliated themselves with the terrorist group ISIS. And this is where it caught the attention of the head of Sony at the time, John Smedley. He was having none of the Lizard Squad's antics and called them out on their absurd and foolish claims. And the lizards did not hesitate to jump on this free exposure. To capitalize being noticed by the head of Sony, they launched a small attack on the PSN network on August 24th, 2014, knocking the site offline and locking users out for several hours. But that was only the beginning. Later that week, John arrives at the airport ready for his flight from Dallas to San Diego. He boards the plane and sits patiently as his flight takes off, until he hears a notification sound from his phone in his pocket, and he's tagged in the comments of a post. And you'd never guess who the author of the tweet was. It's obviously the lizards. As the news spread, panic rippled through the cabin. Moments later, a message goes through the PA system.
The plane is being diverted. There is a potential bomb on the plane.
Plane lands immediately in Phoenix, Arizona, and everything is completely fine. The bomb was fake. John Smedley opens up his phone and tweets,
"Yes, my plane was diverted. Not going to discuss more than that. Justice will find these guys."
After this incident, the Lizard Squad following absolutely blew up. Their followers shot up to 50,000 overnight, and they absolutely loved it. And so they decided to keep on chasing this outcome over the following weeks. This proves something important, that the Lizards weren't just DDoSing and hacking accounts, they were hacking attention. Every major stunt, warning, and attack was gaining them a mass following on Twitter, and the numbers just kept on increasing day by day. But they loved it. And now it was time for their next big target. On December 1st, 2014, everything seemed completely fine. People are enjoying Minecraft, Destiny, Halo. Parties are full, matches are loading, and the night feels pretty normal. Then, one by one, users start running into problems. Some lag, a frozen screen, a failed sign-in. Some get kicked from their servers. Others are suddenly disconnected entirely and logged out of Xbox for absolutely no reason. And the weirdest part, it starts happening everywhere. And then, again, a familiar face is at the top of the Twitter search bar. The lizards have spoken again. Their tweet says, "Xbox #offline," taking credit for the shutdown of Xbox. Now, people are pissed. Everyone goes to Reddit to voice their complaints, and YouTube videos start to appear.
I was playing Modern Warfare, and I lagged out. Thought it was just my internet. Turned off my router, turned it back on, checked, then I went and looked. This is what will pop up
The posts just keep piling up. Message after message, video after video. It just doesn't seem to stop. But what if it wasn't the Lizard Squad? What if they were just taking credit for something they didn't even do? Well, some people were asking that exact same question. One of the biggest voices asking that question was Machinima, an online media company founded in 2000. They're no longer around today, but back then they were massive. One of the most influential names in online gaming. Machinima basically was like, bro, you didn't even do that hack, stop playing. And Lizard Squad was like, I bet, watch this. Later, the Lizard Squad hit Machinima's website, defacing the homepage and taking control of the domain. What was left was a giant ASCII-style image of their mascot, a lizard, a taunting mark of their presence. And of course, the Lizard Squad had to tweet again, not knowing this would be one of their last. Soon, another group emerged on Twitter, one that would further fuel the online confrontation. The Finest Squad was a rival hacker collective that emerged, publicly pushing back against their attacks and online antics. In late 2014, as the Lizard Squad disruptive campaigns grew global attention, groups like the Finest Squad, and even members of Anonymous, began to confront them, challenging their credibility, and in some cases interfering with their operations. The Finest Squad's first major win came when they successfully took down their Twitter account, their main connection to the world outside. And for a moment, it looked like the Lizard Squad had truly been silenced. But it wasn't over yet. Not even 24 hours later, a new Twitter account appeared. They were back. But in an instant, everything was gone. All their followers, all their tweets, all the fame. Gone. But that didn't slow them down one bit. The moment they created their new Twitter account, they had a new target. They hit Rockstar Games with a DDoS attack, and Rockstar wasn't the only one. Destiny, Battle.net, EA, Blizzard, pretty much every online gaming service, the Lizard Squad probably flooded it with traffic. They were relentless. It felt like they'd even DDoS your grandma's internet if she had enough followers to matter. It seemed like nothing could stop them. Nobody was even close to uncovering who they really were, or how to put an end to the chaos. That was until the Finest Squad decided to release this. An entire list of the Lizard Squad members, names, addresses, pretty much everything important about them was exposed in a single post, ripping the veil that hid them from the authorities and the public. Finally, this group of lizards could face the long-awaited punishment that all of them deserved, right? Well, not really. Everyone was wondering, were these really the people behind the massive attacks on these huge networks? Until one day, Keemstar decided to invite one representative from each collective to voice out their opinions and clear everything up for the public to understand. Before this, Keemstar had already done a few videos with a Lizard Squad member, and this is what Lizard Squad member Geordie had to say about the doxing.
Did Finest Squad dox you guys?
No, the information they have posted is copy and paste from 2013, 2012 and a bit of 2014. Basically, it's copy and paste and they have not done anything apart from just copy and paste.
Well, that's kinda annoying, but who knows? Maybe one of the numbers exposed in the tweet could be someone's poor old grandma that keeps getting harassed by individuals, claiming that she was some sort of infamous hacking group. It turns out that some of the individuals' information in that post was actually real, and they've shared it on the internet in the past. The Finest Squad didn't hack their accounts or do anything illegal. They simply just scrapped together fragments of information that was already scattered across the internet. By combing through public profiles, weakly protected social accounts, old email handles, and hosting details. They pieced together names and clues that had been leaked out online for months, then compiled it into one single document. And the Lizard Squad didn't take this too nicely. Sometime after the Keemstar interview was posted, they struck back. A new post appeared, this time doxing members of the Finest Squad, and unlike before, this one was actually real. After that, the Finest Squad laid low for a while, but as for the Lizard Squad, they definitely weren't done. They set their sights on their next major target. This time, it was something a little bit more extreme than just some gaming companies though. It was North Korea. A place known for having virtually no contact with the outside world, and it barely interacts with the internet at all. And I don't even think many people inside of North Korea, at the time at least, knew what the internet even was, and they certainly wouldn't be bothered by it being taken down. But in the end, all the Lizard Squad really wanted was fame and attention, and they were willing to do anything to get it. Their twisted plan wasn't about geopolitics or protest, it was to knock out North Korea's internet, even just for a few hours, to grab headlines and boost their follower count. And just like that, on December 22nd, 2014, North Korea's internet went dark, just as the lizards had planned. There was very little information about how the officials reacted to the outage, but here's a picture of Kim Jong-un trying to fix his Wi-Fi. And who knows, maybe he got disconnected in the middle of a CSGO game. But jokes aside, there was still a bigger question in the mix. What if it wasn't the Lizard Squad behind all of the attacks? It was later reported by the BBC that North Korea's internet was back online just a day after the outage. And once again, the Lizards had somehow worked their way into the story, claiming credit for an event that left the world scratching its head. By this point, it had been months since the Lizard began their crawl towards infamy, and in that time they'd racked up absurd numbers of followers and sparked headline after headline with their many DDoS attacks. But they still haven't even come close to their most extreme stunt. As all of this unfolded and the days were slipping by, Christmas 2014 was creeping closer and closer. The Lizards had been hyping this day up for weeks, dropping eerie hints that something massive was coming on what was supposed to be the world's happiest morning. A representative of the Lizard Squad was on a Keemstar video, and he had this to say.
Is that Xbox Live is going to go down on Christmas. Is that still the case?
Possibly.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, you've heard it here. The DDoS attack that's coming this Christmas by Lizard Squad might never happen.
It's finally Christmas morning. Kids are racing down the stairs, cameras are ready, parents are filming every second of the chaos. Some unbox PS4s, others Xboxes. The ultimate dream for so many.
2, 3.
Some families have saved for months just to make this moment happen. Everyone's hyped, buzzing to finally play their favorite games. But not everything was going according to plan. Unbeknownst to them, the second they plugged in their new consoles and powered them up, they were met with the same error screen millions of gamers around the world were seeing. The Lizards had officially done it. They had actually ruined Christmas for potentially tens of millions of people. Players were stuck in loading screens, unable to access multiplayer, or even log in. What should have been hours of holiday joy dissolved in an instant as connection after connection failed. Social media erupted. Gamers flooded Twitter and Reddit with screenshots of error codes, tales of ruined holiday plans, and furious posts blaming the Lizard Squad by name. And because of this, they were nicknamed the Grinches of Christmas. And people were anything but amused.
Get him the fuck out of here!
Demanding accountability for shutting down two of the biggest gaming networks on the biggest day of the year. But there was one man that put a stop to all of this. His name is Kim.com. Kim.com, also known as Kimball, was born Kim Schmitz and is a German-Finnish internet entrepreneur, best known for founding the massive file hosting company Mega Upload, which drew millions of users worldwide before it was eventually shut down by authorities. Among all the gamers struggling to get online that Christmas, he was the one that stood out. Internet entrepreneur, and once the #1 ranked Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 player in the world. And instead of just sitting back, he tweeted directly at the Lizard Squad, telling them he desperately wanted to jump back into Destiny and get his games working again. In a bizarre twist, he offered them 3,000 premium Mega accounts, worth roughly $300,000 in total, if they would stop the attacks on Xbox Live and PlayStation Network. The Lizards decided it was in their best interest to accept Kim's offer, and the conversation was surprisingly casual. The Lizards opened the chat with a simple hello, and they quickly moved into discussing how Kim would deliver the accounts. They agreed that the vouchers would be compiled into a text file and uploaded to the Mega database. For a moment, it looked like the chaos might actually be over. Xbox Live and PlayStation Network were back online. People were finally able to log in, and millions breathed a collective sigh of relief. But while Kim.com's strange diplomatic deal had paused the attack, it didn't mark the end of the Lizard Squad story, not by a long shot. Even after Christmas, the group still had its name everywhere. Headlines continued talking about them, every gaming forum and social feed was buzzing about the absurd events that had unfolded. To many, they were more than just troublemakers. They were internet legends of a bizarre digital age, equally loved and hated. Okay, maybe not loved. They had gone from obscurity to becoming the name people associated with holiday outrage, DDoS attacks, and sheer unpredictability. But as the news cycle moved on, so did law enforcement. In the weeks and months that followed, authorities in several countries began acting. In January 2015, an 18-year-old was arrested in the UK in connection with the Christmas attacks. Computers and devices were seized as part of a broader investigation. That same period saw other arrests of alleged Lizard Squad members and associates, including individuals later charged in the US with operating associated cybercrime tools and services that facilitated DDoS attacks. One of the more public faces of the group was a young Finnish hacker known as Julius Ezekiel Kivimäki. He openly admitted on camera that the attacks were meant to embarrass companies and raise awareness about poor security, a justification that almost no one outside of the hacking world accepted. And despite being convicted on tens of thousands of counts of cybercrime and connected directly to the Christmas Day outages, Kivimäki received a 2-year suspended sentence and was ordered to fight against cybercrime, a ruling that outraged many who felt the punishment didn't match the scale of disruption that he had caused. But even though Ezekiel wasn't around anymore, the rest of the Lizard Squad kept going. Even after Christmas, smaller but still disruptive incidents kept cropping up. Days later, they attempted a cyber attack on a Tor network, a complex effort to flood it with fake relays, though it ultimately had minimal impact. In January 2015, they were even tied to an attack on Malaysia Airlines, replacing their website with a 404 plane not found message, another stunt that mixed humor with chaos. Meanwhile, the gaming world had to adapt. PlayStation Network, which had struggled for days after the attack, began investing more seriously in infrastructure defense. Xbox Live saw similar hardening measures, and even companies outside gaming started paying closer attention to DDoS mitigation because everyone had seen how a few individuals online could cripple systems used by millions. Yet, even as the public eye moved on, the legacy of Lizard Squad lingered. Their name became shorthand for the unpredictable, untamed side of internet culture, where teenage hackers could become global news, where prank and protest blurred into real-world consequences, and where celebrity entrepreneurs like Kim.com could unexpectedly become part of the story. And while some members faded into legal battles or quiet obscurity, law enforcement continued pursuing others linked to cyber attack services tied to their name years later, showing that the digital footprints left behind can echo long after the headlines fade.